Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at a source stack here that details a performance. I mean, a 6.5 year performance that is almost impossible to get your head around.
It really is.
We're talking about one of the most chilling and calculated domestic cover-ups in recent memory. A man who stood on his own wife's grave for 2,396 days.
And looked right into the camera.
Looked tearfully into the camera, begging the world for her to come home.
That image, that's really what defines the case of Tina Satchwell. She vanished in March 2017.
Right.
And it wasn't until October of 2023 that, the determined, methodical work of a cold case review team finally exposed the truth. This deep dive is really about the how.
Yes, how did they do it?
How can relentless lying be overturned by digital forensics, by these tiny structural anomalies, and just sheer persistence?
And I think before we get into the tragedy of it all, we really need to know who Tina was. She was 45 years old when she disappeared from Youghal in Ireland. She was petite, about 5'4", with blonde hair and these really striking blue eyes.
The sources are very specific about her identifiers.
They are. A Tweety bird tattoo on her chest and a belly button piercing. So our mission here is to trace the history of her marriage, to understand the isolation that really defined her final years, and then detail this incredible investigative journey that brought her home from, of all places, beneath the staircase of her own house.
Yeah, and it's so crucial to establish her character first. Friends describe Tina as bright, bubbly, and beautiful. A real personality.
Absolutely. The sources paint this picture of someone who just loved life and specifically loved fashion.
They mentioned she had an expensive eye for things.
She did, especially for clothes and jewelry. We're talking hundreds of outfits, many still brand new with the tags on, all kept on racks upstairs. And importantly, those car boot sales she frequented.
They were more than just about selling things, right?
Oh, absolutely. They were vital social events for her, her main chance really to connect with her community.
And if you look at her personal history, it explains some of her vulnerability. She had a complicated early life, raised by her grandmother, Florence Dingan. But the deeper emotional trauma, that came later. She was just devastated by her younger brother Tom's suicide in 2012.
Which is where her dog comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She got her beloved Chihuahua, Ruby, specifically to cope with that intense, paralyzing grief.
That context is so important because it just completely contradicts the narrative Richard Satchwell would later spin about her being unstable.
Yeah, that's a key point.
Her own GP, her doctor for nearly 2 decades, confirmed she had absolutely no documented mental health issues. She was dealing with grief, but she wasn't unstable.
Precisely. And speaking of Richard, he met Tina in England back in 1989. She was 17, he was 22.
And the word the sources use over and over is obsessed.
Instantly obsessed. He called her his trophy wife from the very beginning. He married her on her 20th birthday in November 1991, and he made this grand gesture of choosing her over his anti-Irish family.
None of whom came to the wedding.
Not a single one.
And that intense devotion, it sounds romantic on the surface, running her baths, applying baby oil, giving her pedicures.
But it was masking something much darker.
It was the foundation of her isolation. Her half-sister's testimony was just stark. She said he was obsessive, possessive, and controlling. What's fascinating is how methodical that control was.
It was a strategy of elimination, really. He would systematically criticize every single friend Tina made. Until her social circle just got smaller and smaller. He basically created an isolation bubble around her until she had almost no independent social life left.
It's the textbook definition of coercive control, and the source material really drives that point home. She told her half-sister that she felt absolutely trapped.
And that she couldn't leave.
Couldn't leave because she truly believed that he would follow her to the ends of the earth. He had convinced her there was no escape.
Which brings us to the last time anyone outside that house saw her alive. It's Sunday, March 19th, 2017, at a car boot sale.
And by all accounts, she was in good spirits.
Yeah, she bought a black jacket, a dress, some perfume, and a friend sort of playfully questioned her loyalty to her husband. And she told him firmly that she loved her husband and wouldn't touch another man.
And those were the last words anyone heard her speak. Just a tragic irony, given the environment she was in.
It's heartbreaking.
So just 4 days later, on Friday, March 24th, the alarm is finally raised. Richard Satchwell drives 43 kilometers from Youghal to Fermoy Garda Station, the Garda being the Irish police force.
Bypassing his local station.
Bypassing his local station. So why the detour, and more importantly, why the 4-day delay?
The delay was the first major red flag for the investigators. Richard's official story was that Tina had left on the Monday morning, March 20th.
Well, he was conveniently out of the house.
Exactly. He claimed he was 30 kilometers away in Dungarvan buying fish and parrot food. And supposedly, she took 2 suitcases and 26,000 euros tiglé in cash from the attic. He was painting it as this, voluntary, calculated escape.
Right, he was controlling the narrative from the very start.
He was. And when the police started questioning that story, Richard didn't retreat. He went on the offensive with this really aggressive media strategy.
Between June 2017 and March 2018, he gave at least 14 recorded interviews. He made himself the face of this missing person case.
His most compelling moment, I think the one that cemented his public persona, was on RTA's Crime Call in July 2017. RTA is Ireland's national broadcaster, so this is a widely watched show.
And what did he do?
He looked right into that camera lens, tears welling up, and he pleaded, "Tina, come home, my arms are open." He maintained total innocence, repeatedly claiming, "I never lifted a finger to her in 28 years.
That media campaign was, on the surface, just flawless. But his actual behavior tells a completely different, much darker story. What was Richard doing back in Youghal in those first few weeks?
The details are chilling. They just show a complete contradiction to the distraught husband image he was projecting. Get this. Just 10 days after she vanished, while he's telling the world he's searching frantically, he texted her cousin offering their large chest freezer for free.
A large chest freezer. That's a detail that becomes immensely significant later.
And then he advertised it online. It didn't stop there. By late April, early May, just weeks after she supposedly fled with all that cash, he was actively selling her most beloved things.
Her clothes? Her Dr. Martens boots?
At the very car boot sales she cherished. It was a deliberate erasure. When friends asked where Tina was, he spun these elaborate contradictory stories. She had an infection from dry rot.
I remember reading that one.
A serious respiratory illness. She lost 4 stone. All lies. Meanwhile, the jacket and dress she'd bought the day before she died were found hanging, unworn, in their living room.
So he was managing the public persona while dismantling her private life.
Exactly.
The initial investigation starts pretty quickly, less than 3 months after she vanished, in June 2017. 10 Gardaí conduct a formal 12-hour search. They didn't come up empty, did they? They found some visual red flags.
They did. And the photographs they took that day ended up being critical years later. They documented these key structural anomalies. New unpainted stairs, fresh plasterboard, and crucially, a small, new red brick wall right under the stairwell in the living room.
But despite those visual clues suggesting recent construction, the investigation just stalled.
It did. And this is where we need to understand the methodological shortcomings. They spotted the red flags, but they did not excavate.
No digging.
They didn't use a cadaver dog. And they used forensic luminal tests to check for blood, which all came back negative.
Why did that negative result end that line of inquiry? That's a key technical detail, isn't it?
It is. Luminal tests react to iron and blood, but they only really work on porous surfaces or when blood is exposed. Because the body was encased beneath layers of concrete and soil, the chemical just couldn't get through that barrier to react with the floor surfaces.
So the concrete acted as a perfect insulator.
A perfect shield against detection, allowing Richard to maintain his facade for years.
The structural evidence was overlooked. The forensics were inconclusive, and the case went cold. For years. 400 lines of inquiry, 60 reported sightings, all leading nowhere.
That is until August 2021. Superintendent Anne-Marie Toomey leads a comprehensive cold case review. Her team re-examines everything, including the digital devices seized way back in 2017, Richard's laptop and phone.
Which had just been sitting in an evidence locker for years.
For 4 years, unexamined. This re-examination was the turning point.
I think you might be surprised that those devices weren't analyzed immediately. Why did it take 4 years for that data to be looked at?
Well, in high-volume cases, sometimes physical evidence takes precedence, or forensic resources are just stretched thin. Fortunately, they were seized. And when Detective Garda Dave Kelleher analyzed the laptop in late 2021, he found it.
A hot moment.
The moment that broke the case wide open.
Tell us about that search.
Okay, so on Friday, March 24, 2017, the exact day Richard reported Tina missing, someone used the laptop at 9:08 p.m. to search for the term quicklime. And even more damning, they watched a specific YouTube video called Quicklime and Water Reaction. And they didn't just watch it once, they watched it twice.
Quicklime. That's calcium oxide. It's highly corrosive, historically used to speed up decomposition and suppress odor. What does that search on that specific day prove legally?
It proves what lawyers call consciousness of guilt. It shows that Richard knew Tina was dead and was actively researching how to conceal her body and manage the decomposition. It suggests premeditation, or at the very least, a comprehensive plan to cover up a homicide.
This was the proof that she wasn't a missing person.
She was a domestic homicide victim.
And that digital trace then led to the next big breakthrough, which was the mobile phone data extracted in February 2022. Richard's whole alibi was built on him being 30 kilometers away in Dungarvan. What did the phone prove?
It completely shattered his timeline. The data showed Richard was collecting social welfare in Youghal at 11:10 a.m. on Monday, March 20th.
So not in Dungarvan.
Not even close. He remained home until 12:40 CR p.m. That 100-minute window, the exact time he claimed to be 30 kilometers away, was proven to be a lie by his own device.
So now the cold case team has the motive, the digital confession, and the lie, but they still don't have a body.
Right. That's when they bring in the forensic archaeologist, Dr. McCullough, in September 2023. She provided crucial context on domestic homicide patterns.
What was her insight?
She pointed out that female domestic homicide victims are overwhelmingly disposed of very close to home, usually within 1 kilometer. The perpetrator's under pressure, they need speed and convenience.
So that, combined with the structural red flags from the 2017 photos,
Made the house the primary focus once again. She recommended the final invasive search.
And on October 10th, 2023, Richard was arrested on suspicion of murder. The search team didn't waste any time. How did they finally find her?
They deployed a specialist cadaver dog, a Springer Spaniel named Fern, and Fern showed immediate sustained interest right under the stairs in the living room.
The exact spot with the new brick wall.
The team lifted the linoleum and saw exactly what the 2017 photos had suggested. A rectangular patch of visibly newer concrete that didn't match the rest of the floor.
The final harrowing step, they brought in the jackhammers.
At a depth of about 64 centimeters, they hit black plastic sheeting. The body was officially confirmed via dental records on October 13, 2023, 2,396 days after she was killed.
And her tattoo.
Her Tweety Bird tattoo is still visible. And in this haunting detail, her wallet, with her public service and loyalty cards, was still in the pocket of her dressing gown.
The performance was over. After the discovery, Richard's story changes dramatically. It goes from, "my wife left me," to a claim of self-defense.
A completely new story. He claimed he found her at the bottom of the stairs, that she flew at him with a chisel, and that he strangled her with her dressing gown belt until she went limp.
But the cover-up story he detailed was even more grotesque.
Oh, it was. He claimed he held her body for 20 to 30 minutes, then left her on the couch for a day or two. Then he moved her to that same chest freezer he'd tried to give away.
One in the shed.
Unplugged, in the shed, for several days.
The planning, the research, the timing. He said he dug that grave like a robot.
He admitted to burying her on Mother's Day, March 26, 2017. She was wrapped in black plastic, face down, with the dressing gown belt wrapped around her body in this unusual knotted position.
He tried to frame it as some kind of twisted act of love, didn't he?
He did. He claimed he put her wedding ring in her pocket so she would know the hand that killed her was the hand that loved her. The ring was never actually found with the body. Then he poured over a meter, more than 3 feet of concrete over the grave to seal his secret.
Which brings us to the trial at the Central Criminal Court in Dublin, late April 2025. He pleads not guilty.
Forcing a 23-day trial with over 50 witnesses. The prosecutor characterized him perfectly, I think, as an arch manipulator who was shamelessly brazen to the very end.
The evidence was just overwhelming, wasn't it?
It was, and precisely because of how the cold case review connected all the dots. The forensic pathologist, Dr. Bolster, found no fractures, no defensive wounds on Tina's body, which directly contradicted his chisel fight story.
Then you had the quicklime search.
Powerful evidence of planning, of consciousness of guilt, and of course the mobile phone data proving his alibi was a deliberate lie.
But what seems to have had the most profound impact on the jury was seeing the two Richards side by side.
Yes, the man in the courtroom versus the man on television.
They were shown 14 video clips of his tearful, convincing media appearances. The juxtaposition of that performance with the reality of the grave beneath his stairs must have been devastating.
After 9 hours and 28 minutes of deliberation, over 3 days, the jury returned a unanimous verdict. Guilty of murder. He received the mandatory sentence of life imprisonment.
And Tina's memory, thankfully, is now focused on her life, not her death. After the discovery, over 200 people attended a vigil in Youghal. Many brought their dogs.
A tribute to her love for her pets, for her Chihuahua Ruby.
Her family ensured her legacy honored her roots. Half her ashes were buried with her brother Tom, and half with her grandmother Florence. They spoke out, making sure everyone remembered her as a kind, loving, and gentle soul who loved her animals.
Ensuring the real Tina superseded Richard's narrative.
So, what does this case mean for you, the listener? The fact that a seemingly perfect crime, concealed for years, was ultimately undone by two seemingly minor details, a quicklime search and a patch of new concrete, it just shows the absolute power of persistence.
It really highlights that the truth often leaves these small traces in our digital lives and our physical environment that even the most meticulous liar forgets to cover. The cold case review worked backwards, not by believing his story, but by asking, what facts contradict his performance?
Richard spent over 6.5 years putting on a show for the world. What does this case teach you about the nature of coercive control and the often hidden power of digital evidence to expose the truth, even years later? Think about the arrogance required to believe that a search query made at 9:08 p.m. on a Friday would just vanish forever. It proves that sometimes the digital trail is the one thing no one can ever truly bury.